Mom, Dad's being weird again.
Luscious.
Honey,
So full.
it's just grass.
Oh, it's so much more than just grass. It's a healthier, greener, and more luscious lawn. Yours can be too.
Look at you.
With Kabursky Brothers Lawn Care.
Remember, no shoes on the lawn. Because you're so beautiful.
Call or click today.
Bacon, exciting to chew. Bacon Fest, we're expecting you. And love, Iowa bacon love.
Hello and welcome to the first off-season edition of Bigger Than 12. You might ask, what are we going to talk about? It's a good question. We're figuring it out as we go. No, I'm kidding. We've got some good topics in store for you tonight in the Channel Seed Studios. I'm Jake Brend with Bigger Than 12, joined by Derek Duke in Texas. Derek, how are we doing, my friend?
Doing good. Recovering from a sickness the last few days. I told you guys I got sick on Friday. I didn't start feeling like myself really until yesterday, which is Tuesday, and I feel about 80% right now. I mean, still a little congested, but not enough to where I can't have a beer with me. But as bad as being sick was, it's been a week since I've had a beer, so it's bad. As bad as being sick was, what was worse was just not eating meat. I told you guys before the show, I didn't eat meat for like 3 days. And I was just eating soup and drinking broth. I got so sick and tired of that crap. And I was drinking medicine. I don't even know what kind of medicine I was drinking. Just whatever I could to just pass myself out. And it was just awful. It was awful. And then I'm watching the Bacon Fest thing here on the pre-show thing here. And it makes me really want to go to Bacon Fest. I could have used some bacon in my life this week.
Well, maybe this was just a sign from God. He knows you're coming to Iowa next week. He knows that the only thing you're going to do is drink beer and eat meat when you're in the great state of Iowa.
He's trying to clean my liver.
Yeah, maybe he was just giving you a detox before your trip up to Iowa.
Well, I can't really say it's going to be much of a detox because I think tomorrow I'm actually going to I'm heading back to my brewery. It's been a week. It's been too long. Yeah,
are they going to remember your name?
They actually know. We go so often. Me and my wife go so often. They shout out to Orlando there. He knows our mug numbers and exactly what we want before we even sit down.
But it's been so long since you've been back.
Oh, he knows us. We go at least once a week, most times twice a week. So yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to having you up in the great state of Iowa next week. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Maybe build a little trip itinerary for Derek. We're also going to talk football. It's been a while since we've really dove into football, and unfortunately, we don't have any X's and O's to break down, but we're going to talk Shedeur and Travis Hunter's jersey retirement, Nico Iamaleava, and then we've got a fun game in store. We're going to rank the Big 12 newcomers based off of what they've brought to the conference so far. All of that coming up on Bigger Than 12, presented by Wealth Charter Retirement Planning and Tax. I'm sure that Tim Hawkins and his team, if you're cracking one beer, Derek, I'm sure they're cracking 10. Tax season is over. They now get to relax a little bit and settle into their retirement planning side of the business, which I'm sure is a very welcome change for Tim Hawkins and his team. They do it the best over there. I'm actually going to set up a meeting in the next couple weeks to go get my finances all checked out with our good friends at Wealth Charter. You can schedule an appointment for yourself at wealthcharterretirement.com and schedule an appointment at their office in Ankeny. Let's start in Boulder. It's not news to anybody if you've listened to any of the family of shows on the Iowa Everywhere Network this week, but Colorado announces that Shedeur Sanders, number 2, and Travis Hunter's number 12 will be retired this week at Colorado's spring game, less than 4 months after they played their last game as Buffaloes. Derek, your initial thoughts on this decision?
I kind of have a rant here. So I know a lot of people have an issue with it. And look, there's two things here that I think people are really talking about when it comes to this topic. Number one, is it too soon? Number two, does Sanders deserve to have his number retired? And honestly, I don't care about the timing at all. I think school should do it sooner rather than later because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, how many times have we seen somebody get honored when their health is declining, or even worse, they're already dead? So I don't have an issue with Colorado wanting to do it now. And I don't know how many people are familiar out there. If anybody remembers Rashawn Salam, the running back for Colorado who won their first ever Heisman back in '94, it took 23 years for them to retire his number. And unfortunately, he already passed by then. So it should have been done a whole lot sooner than that. And maybe the school kind of learned their lesson from that particular instance. But my thing is, when a player wins a Heisman Trophy, especially at a school that doesn't produce a bunch of Heisman winners, I have no issue with them retiring their number. They earned it. So to me, Travis Hunter is fine. As for Sanders, I think that's where people seem to be drawing a line. And as a habitual line crosser myself, I'm not mad at them for retiring the number. My initial reaction, though, I will say, was no. But the more I thought about it, I was like, why not? Like, even before the news this week, I thought Sanders was the best quarterback in college football last season. You look at his numbers, 37 touchdown passes last season, completed over 74% of his passes. And he did that all behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football. In fact, you look, I wrote some of the numbers down here. He had 72 total touchdowns in 2 seasons there, completing over 70% of his passes. Took him 2 years to break the school record there. And I don't know how many people know this, but he actually holds over 100 school records at Colorado. And the man played 2 seasons there, was an All-American, won multiple awards. And I know everybody, this is where people have the issue. The starting record of 13-12 with Shedeur Sanders as the starting quarterback. And to those people, I ask, what about Patrick Mahomes? Like, when he was at Tech, Mahomes was 13-19 as a starter in Lubbock. But at the same time, he was one of the best Big 12 quarterbacks I had ever seen play. And nobody, and I mean nobody, batted an eye when Texas Tech honored him back in 2022. So, just like Mahomes, Sanders didn't have the greatest team around him. Keep in mind that when Deion and Shedeur arrived in Boulder, the team before him went 1-11. From 2003 to 2022, Colorado had one season where they won 9 regular season games or more, and Shedeur did it in year 2 there. So I'm fine with both guys having their number retired. I don't have an issue with it. I know a lot of people do, but I don't.
Do you think Mahomes would have his number retired if he had just an average NFL career? Like, say Mahomes was Andy Dalton. Do you think Mahomes would have his jersey retired in Lubbock right now?
He should. I don't give a damn about what he did in the NFL. I mean, if it's based on what he did in college and in Lubbock, absolutely. His record is what it is. I know personally, like Iowa State fans, Jake, Iowa State fans love to bring up that game where they beat the piss out of him, like 66-10 or whatever it was, and it was a terrible game for Mahomes. But at the same time, that doesn't take away from how great he was as a quarterback. I mean, the guy had nothing around him at Tech.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it takes anything around him, but Mahomes' Tech legacy, I think, has grown because of what he did in the NFL.
And
I think there's a chance that happens with Sanders and certainly Hunter. Hunter, assuming that he avoids injuries, he's going to have a long, very productive NFL career. Sanders he's up in the air. I guess my problem with this, I disagree a little bit with the timing. I think you made the good point in Salam having to wait until after he was dead, until it was retired. I think there's a happy medium between 4 years and 4 months. Why are you doing it at a spring game? Why together? I think this is a great opportunity. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you bring back these players. If, who knows, maybe Colorado's in the middle of a 5-5 season, attendance isn't great. So then you bring back it's Travis Hunter night. We're going to retire his jersey. It's going to be a huge celebration of the most electrifying player to ever come through Boulder. That's where I look at it. To me, doing it this soon, I think, is a little unnecessary. And I also think it's a little unfair to put Hunter and Sanders on the same level. Because that's, when I initially saw it, that's what I read it as. It's that, yeah, these guys both had the same impact on Colorado. These guys were both the same level of players. And while they were both a part of the turnaround in Boulder, we talked plenty about it this year, how good of a coaching job it was by Coach Prime and how good that team was when we didn't expect it. But at the same time, Sanders was a really, really good college football quarterback. He was a top 10 Heisman finalist, but he wasn't anything we've never seen. Travis Hunter was something that we haven't seen. And that's why I think they should both have... I'm not going to judge, should you retire, should you not. I'd say no for Sanders, definitely for Hunter. But where I will judge is give the guys their own nights and spread it apart a little bit and maybe give it time to breathe. That's where I stand.
That's fair. Maybe they're worried about Dion leaving in 5 years.
Maybe.
That's why.
When I saw the timing, that was my thing, is like, well, Dion wants to get it done before, who knows, maybe he goes and wins 9-10 games again this year. And
NFL comes calling.
Yeah. Florida State comes calling. Miami comes calling. Schools like that. And Prime makes the jump. Maybe there's bad blood between him and Colorado. They don't retire his kid's number. That's what I think it comes down to. And we've talked about Sanders' value to that program, to that, not to the, just that program, to that institution, to that state. The University of Colorado isn't exactly in a position to tell Dion no to anything. And that, in college athletics, that's where problems can start, is when the coach is way, 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 way too powerful. But at the same time, he's earned it with a lifetime of accolades, a lifetime of swagger, a lifetime of really just being Deion Sanders. Like that's what it comes down to. And I think that's the reason for it. And I honestly just disagree.
You know, I don't. It's not like he's retired. They're retiring Shiloh's number here. I mean,
oh man, that'd be a whole nother. Yeah,
that I could understand. But with Shedeur, I mean, like I said, the man has an argument and a case to be the best quarterback in Colorado history. Like, he doesn't have the winning percentage that some people have, but when you hold over 100 school records and he's the all-time leader in passing touchdowns, 2 seasons. The rest of that list for Colorado is like guys who have played 3 to 4 years. So really impressive stuff there.
And what he was doing behind that offensive line.
Exactly.
So I agree with you. I think some of the reaction I've seen is no way should Shedeur have his jersey retired. And I disagree with that statement. For me, it's probably more of a 45-55 lookout on it. And I made this rant a couple months ago when TCU retired Desmond Bane's jersey and people were clowning him. Like, I don't think other fan bases should be in the spot to judge other programs' success. Like Oklahoma fans, USC fans, Alabama fans will look down on Iowa State, I'm sure, in 10 years when Brock Purdy comes back and gets his jersey retired. And,
build the damn statue already.
And Iowa State fans will rightfully be hurt by that because it wouldn't be fair. But at the same time, you gotta look at where the programs are at historically. Yeah, Oklahoma's had 6 quarterbacks win the Heisman, so their standard on what's a legend in Norman is different than what's a legend in Ames. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to what's important to the fan base. If Colorado fans are happy with Shedeur getting his jersey retired, then that's all I need to know. But there won't be really anything that can convince me that it shouldn't be happening at the spring game before they even get drafted. There just hasn't been enough time to breathe. Not even close.
That's fair. That's fair to say.
Should we move on to Nico Iamaleava? I think that's the only time I'm going to say it. I got it right. I'm just going to refer to Nico.
I'm not even going to attempt to say it.
We don't need to dive into the details. If you've listened to a second of sports talk radio or podcasting this week, you know it. Doesn't look like Nico's going to get the $4 million that he was commanding. Who knows if he's going to even get the $2 million he was already earning. That's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about how this affects the big picture. We'll start in the Big 12. What do you think happens to the landscape in the Big 12 when a big-name quarterback, when a former 5-star quarterback like I shouldn't have just said it. I shouldn't have said it. When a big-name quarterback like Nico tries to strong-arm his program and get shown the door?
I mean, from a Big 12 standpoint, I am glad it happened to an SEC school. I'm glad, and I'm really glad Tennessee showed him the door. It does make me feel bad, though, because this could easily happen to a Big 12 team. Imagine if Sawyer Robinson at Baylor or Josh Hoover at TCU said, you know what? I want an extra $1.5 million or $2 million this season, or else I'm going to leave. I'm going to walk. So, and I'm sorry, that $2 million is a lot harder to come by in the Big 12 than it is the SEC. Maybe not necessarily at a place like TCU or Baylor at times, or Texas Tech, as we all know, who's spending money like crazy. But for a lot of Big 12 schools, it is. They don't make as much as the Big 10 or the SEC. So that does scare me. And I think we just need to all stop living in this world and pretending where these guys are student athletes. I think that shit went out the window years ago. College football is a business. It's a big business. It's like Amazon. It's like Apple. Screw the handshakes. I think you make players sign contracts. And if the NCAA grew a set of balls, they could maybe limit the amount of times a player can transfer. They should have done that years ago. But that ship's probably sailed. So, get these players to sign deals and be the end of it. This is worse than the NFL when you think about it, because at least in the NFL, these guys have contracts in place where they stay in one place for multiple years. Could you imagine, speaking of Patrick Mahomes, could you imagine if Patrick Mahomes was just a free agent every single year in the NFL, and then the NFL didn't have a salary cap? That's what college football feels like right now.
Yeah, it completely takes away any power from the team, any power from the organization. And I know that the right thing to do is be pro player. These players were getting screwed for years and years and years. Johnny Manziel should have made millions legally. So should Tim Tebow. Yeah, they should have, but at the same time, the players now are making money. I'm not one to judge too much money. They're getting paid what the market demands. That's fine by me. But at the same time, there needs to be parameters. You can't have these 1-year deals that aren't even deals, because Nico had agreed to what he was going to make this upcoming season. The 2025 season, it was all in place. And then he said, you know what? I want more. Could you imagine if LeBron James signs a max deal? I guess there's no salary cap in the NBA in this example. He signs a 1-year, $50 million deals heading into the summer. He gets that, goes through a week of training camp, holds out and says, screw it. I want $70 million or I'm not playing. No, that doesn't happen because they have contracts, because they're adults. That can't happen. And my hope with this is that maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of reluctancy from players. Because if this future maybe top 10 draft pick, this guy who's the biggest star on campus, if he just got shown the door, who am I as a solid defensive back, third team all conference, who am I to go demand a raise twice my salary? Maybe they'll tell me, go see the door, and then I'm playing DB at Sasquatch State the next year. That's where I think this might, over the long term, it just barely could have a good effect on college football.
It sucks. I know personally, I'm getting so sick of this shit. I really wish we could go back to the good old days of college football, where it's just mostly about football. It's about the sport we love. And now I feel like just little by little, this sport is dying. And it may not be like noticeable changes as far as like attendance goes and viewership goes, but I think at some point, they've got to fix this crap. I mean, the NCAA needs to grow a pair, set some guidelines, set some kind of guardrail up, something. Just instead, they're just sitting on their hands, just letting the sport be ruined by people in suits, and it looks like it has no intention of slowing down.
Yeah, the problem is the NCAA can't do anything right now because no matter what they do, they get sued.
They get sued and they get overruled in court.
I guess
yeah, you're right.
I guess maybe they could. Never mind. I probably shouldn't make a Gary Barta joke.
Well, they should have done it. They knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming. And then once they opened Pandora's box, you can't close it. It's like toothpaste. You can't put it back in the roll. It's out. So now they're screwed. But they could have done something years ago before this happened. And instead, they just did nothing. And now they're like, what do you want us to do about it? They're just kind of sticking their hands in the air. And it's, I don't know. It feels like we're like in the 1980s. Like, I don't know if you're like a 30 for 30 guy. Remember the SMU, the Pony Express. The Pony Express back in the 1980s where all the cash was under the table. It was in these handshakes and briefcases. Now it's just, it's the Wild West just all over the country now. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, eventually the bubble's going to burst. We don't know what it's going to look like when the bubble bursts. We don't know like how bad it could be. Maybe it could be good, but eventually it's going to happen. One of these times, there is going to be that billionaire booster that pays $4.5 million for quarterback X to come to their school. He's going to show up, take the money, and hold out after week 8 or something. Or it's going to be a disappointing year, and eventually that billionaire is going to say, I'm done. And when you have one billionaire that's done, and then another, and then another, and then another, eventually there's not going to be the well to go back to. And that could be next year, that could be 5 years down the road, but eventually it's going to happen. And everybody knows that. And like you said, the NCAA, it sat on their hands for 50 years and didn't do anything. Right now it's time for the adults, whether that is the NCAA, whether that's the conference commissioners, whether it's the school presidents. There has to be some sort of collaboration to have a plan in place for when the bubble does burst. For the good of the sport. For the good. That's why I wish we could be like the Premier League. When they created that Super League 5 years ago, and Liverpool fans said, no, screw that. We're not letting Everton die. That's what we need. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't watch soccer.
I don't really either, but essentially like 7-8 years ago, I think it might have been Saudi money, did something similar to Live Golf, but with soccer. They took like the 4 best English teams, the 4 best German teams, the 4 best Spanish teams, and created like one 16-team league. And the fans of those clubs, the fans of the clubs that got put into this Super League, said, no, we're not. It'd be like if the top 4 teams from the SEC and the top 4 teams from the Big Ten created a Super League, But then Alabama fans said, no, we can't screw over Vanderbilt. That would never happen. But that's what happened in England. When Man City said, no, we can't leave behind our friends at Southampton, because they care about the good of the sport and the tradition. People need to care about their neighbors. Iowa fans need to care about Iowa State. Iowa State fans need to care about Iowa in the sense that they both need each other for the sport to be as good as it can. That doesn't mean cheer for them. You don't have to do that. But everybody should be in this together to keep college football as the greatest sport in America, like I think it is, but it's slowly becoming not. Maybe quickly becoming not the best sport in America because there's so many problems with it.
Do you think Greg Sankey, the commissioner at the SEC, really gives a shit about anybody else?
No, he doesn't.
No.
And that's the problem.
No. The Big Ten commissioner don't give a shit about anybody else either. Those two commissioners could go up to Charlie Baker's office, the president of the NCAA, slap him around, punch him in the face, I don't know how many times, and walk away and nothing would happen to them. And he
They're
would
probably
just
doing
say,
it right now.
They probably are. And he would just say, please don't do that again. And it's a complete joke.
Dang, we got fired up. Before we get too fired up, I'd like to give a shout out to our friends at Freedom Tire. Spring's here. Driving around, going on some road trips. I'll be making a few road trips this summer. I know, Derek, you'll be driving around the great state of Iowa next week. If you're doing any travel, really under any circumstance, you need to go to Freedom Tire. Not only do they specialize in tires and tire maintenance, they're great at general car maintenance, oil changes, anything that you need help with on your car, they'll get it done at all of their central Iowa locations in Altoona, Urbandale, Des Moines, West Des Moines, and Ames. Thanks to Freedom Tire, Quentin Crowner and his team are awesome. We'd also like to thank our friends at Circa Sports Iowa. Maybe I don't want to thank Circa. They took all my money at the Masters. Colin Morikawa didn't show up. Tommy
Same.
Fleetwood, despite a great Sunday, didn't quite get that top 10 finish. But I don't regret betting with Circa at all because they had the best odds by far. I looked at the other apps. The value I got Morikawa at was almost 2-1 greater than what you could get anywhere else. So thank you to Circa Sports Iowa. It's designed by players for players. And you can download it today. Circa Sports Iowa for the best and sharpest odds anywhere. Or if you want, you can visit circasports.com/Iowa. We'll have more in the future on Circa Sports Iowa and the Circa Resort and Casino for promos and deals that they have in the coming months. Thanks to Circa Sports Iowa for being on board here at Iowa Everywhere. Aiden, we kind of forgot to ask. You've had a crazy day. Do you have an Iowa trivia question for us today? Perfect.
I do.
Wow. He's ready.
All right, Derek.
On top of it.
All right, Derek.
Okay.
Iowa State has had a total of 7 players get their jerseys retired. Granted, there's only 5 numbers between the 7 of them. Make it make sense. How many of them are from Iowa? And can you name any of them?
This is
So
basketball,
native
correct?
Iowans. Yeah,
This is bad. Yeah, I was going to say this is,
Yeah.
Jesus.
So native Iowans to have their jerseys retired at Iowa State.
Do I have to name them? Or I just name
you
the number?
can.
There's no way I can name them.
Well, mainly name the amount.
Okay. There's 7 players, 5 numbers, right?
Yes.
This is no offense to the great state of Iowa, but I don't know how much like basketball talent's coming out of the state. I'm going to guess 2.
Jake?
Well, I know 2 for sure. And
Okay, that's a good start.
I know 2 that, or maybe 3 that aren't for sure. Fred Hoiberg and
That's 1.
Gary Thompson
It's 2. Rolling Rocket.
from Roland Story. Hornacek's not an Iowan, is he?
No.
Barry Stevens is from Flint, Michigan. Who am I missing? This is going to be... Well, the problem is that they haven't retired anyone since Fred. Like,
Yeah. Well,
dang
actually, I
near
don't even think
30
he was
years
the last
ago.
one.
Yeah, I
Barry
think Fred
Stevens
was the last one.
one.
Oh, Stevens.
But Fred was the most recent player.
Yeah, I'm going to guess it's just those two. But I'm blanking on who the
three.
other...
Ah, damn.
I can't
was
believe
close.
you guys are forgetting the pride of Everly, Iowa, Waldo Wagner. Wagner.
I don't even know who that is.
What years did he play?
He played at
don't
Iowa
think
State
it's
from 1932 to 1935. There were some
Where's
great
Herkel
teams.
Ivy from?
Was there even a basketball, or were they just shooting corn in the hoop back then?
They're shooting corn in the
say?
Peach Bowl.
Yeah. In the peach basket. Yeah, they were probably throwing corn in the peach basket back then.
Have you ever looked at
There you go.
Herkel Ivy's stats? Guy was putting up like 26 a game in the mid 70s. He was playing at Hilton.
No 3-point line, right?
No 3-point line. No, he was playing at Hilton Coliseum before it was Hilton Magic. There was like a 15, probably like a 13-year run where it was just Hilton Coliseum, the building, and then Hilton Coliseum was born in 1983, or Hilton Magic was born in 1983. There's a little fun fact for you.
The more you know.
All right, now this is what I've probably been looking forward to the most all day. So we're going to rank the Big 12 newcomers. And that's really all we said. We didn't really set out parameters on how we value them. It's just 1 through 8. I've got a list. Derek's got a list. We sent it to Aiden individually. We haven't seen each other's yet. So I'm pumped to see our list. Aiden's going to reveal it. I'll read them off in case you're listening on the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, there it is. All right. Okay. Dang. You got Houston 7. All right. I'll read them off 1 through 8. My top 8 from top to bottom: BYU, Arizona State, Colorado, Houston, Arizona, Utah, Cincinnati, Central Florida. Derek's top 8 is BYU, Arizona, UCF 3, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado, Houston, and Cincinnati. I'll let you pick holes in mine first. Where do you disagree most with me?
I think the biggest thing we have really flip-flopped here, I mean, I think we both kind of agree on Cincinnati, where they're a bottom 2 to me, so that we both can agree on that. UCF, though, and how, I don't know how you put them at 8, and then Colorado's so high. I'm going to assume the only reason Colorado is so high is purely Dion.
Well, so
Gotta be. They haven't done jack shit in the last 20 years in anything.
yeah, so I valued this kind of based off of their 2 years in the league so far.
1.
Well, yeah, 2 for the first 4, 1 for the 4 corners. And so what I did was I did an Excel spreadsheet where I came up with 7 categories, and I rated them just on a scale of 1 to 10. So football success, basketball success, football coach, basketball coach, football atmosphere, basketball atmosphere, and then national recognition. And then I weighted it. So I like did this math equation where I made football success worth 10 times as much as pretty much anything, because that's, in my eyes, what's the most important. Colorado got so high because national recognition, football success under Dion, football popularity under Dion, football atmosphere under Dion. I just think as long as Dion's there, they've been a great addition to the conference because nobody's brought more eyeballs to the Big 12 than Colorado, and I don't even know if there's anyone near them in that sense.
Yeah, well, you did a lot more math than I did. I mean, I'm not much of a math guy.
Don't you work at a bank?
I was more of like a C- kind of math guy. That was my kind of math. I think really that's the only issue. Like some of the stuff, like I think we have a similar vision on Utah, Houston, Cincinnati. I don't know, you kind of have Houston way up there for that's got to be basketball only.
Well, yeah, they just played in the national championship.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, that's fine. But I mean, their football value is nothing. Next to nothing.
So we'll probably need to revisit this next year, 5 years from now, because if Utah, if their football trajectory does what I think it will, and they end up back in the top half of the conference like most expect, Utah will shoot up my rankings because they do have Kyle Whittingham, and they do have the recent history, and they're probably the most respected Big 12 team, Big 12 football program in the conference, maybe outside of Oklahoma State. But they're so far up there, and they're definitely skewed by one down year, but it's their only sample size in the conference so far. So they were plummeted based off of that. Arizona State, same thing. I think not only what they did last year, but the future for them. That's why I've got them so high at number 2. Kenny Dillingham is one of the hottest young names in the sport. They're recruiting like crazy. I think they've got a really good chance to be the program in the conference going forward. And they just, when I set this math equation to weight football times 10, it's going to shoot Arizona State's 10 out of 10 football season. It's going to shoot them towards the top of the list. So I think we both kind of agree having them near the top. But we're both in agreement on BYU being number 1. And I think that's got to do
fan base. Yeah,
it's got to do balance of a successful football season, successful basketball season. They have a top 3 atmosphere for football in the conference, and I think a top 3 atmosphere for basketball in the conference as well. They've got the number 1, probably NIL backing in the entire conference, which means they're set up for the future to be as successful as anybody. And they've got probably top 5 coaches in the league and in both sports. Like BYU has been a home run addition, whether you like it or not, whether you like playing them or not. They have been nothing but successful in both sports so far in their 2 years in the league.
I simply did. That's a national fan base. BYU fans are everywhere. Conferences have tried to get BYU in their conference for years. I think they bring ultimate value in the Big 12. I'll let you poke holes in mine if you feel wherever you feel necessary, because I think UCF we definitely disagree on. Maybe Arizona, Colorado we definitely.
Yeah, do. I don't see any way how UCF is that high. I know they've got a big fan base. I know they've got a big student body, but outside of that undefeated season with Scott Frost 8 years ago, they haven't done anything despite the resources that they've completely underachieved in football.
My list isn't a what have you done for me lately. To me, it's more of a value list. So like these coaches and players, they can come and go. It's and especially in today's age and today's world of college football. Kenny Dillingham could wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, screw it, I'm out of here. Could you imagine if Deion leaves Colorado in 2 years?
Oh, they'd probably be 7 or 8.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I'm basing on mine. Like UCF, people may not like it, but I think it was important for the Big 12 to get in the state of Florida, and UCF was just sitting there. Yes, they came from a group of 5, but that school, I'm telling you, I've been there. It has the resources other schools in this conference wish they had. They have a ton of alumni. They have the largest university enrollment in the state of Florida. I think they had over like 60,000+ there. I mean, that's a sleeping giant school to me in my eyes. If they can figure out that's where coaching comes in. If they can figure out some of these coaching hires, they have all the tools to succeed. I mean, Florida, you go 20 miles in any direction, you're going to find talent in that state. I don't care where you're at in the state. You're going to find players in the state of Florida. And, that's my opinion on UCF. I don't know if you have any other things you want to poke holes in mine. I think.
Yeah, I think when you add UCF on paper, it completely makes sense for all of the reasons you just laid out. I do think we approached this ranking a little bit different in the sense that I pretty much approached it on what have you provided to the Big 12 so far? And maybe I factored in the future a little bit. I didn't really factor in 10 years ago for the most part. I guess my national recognition category probably factors into that a little bit. Like Utah got a bump just because they are not a name brand in college football, but they're probably a tier below that. I'm curious, since you clearly didn't weight basketball a lot, why do you have Arizona second?
I think for me, and I had to think between Arizona and Arizona State here, I think just across, I kind of went sports there. I think across the major 3 sports, they're a solid school, decent football history, rich basketball history, as we all know. Outstanding. I'm a baseball guy. Outstanding baseball program. Plus, they are the flagship university of the state of Arizona. And I didn't have Arizona State that far off. I think at 4, they're not as valuable as Arizona. I mean, they're a good ad. If you look at across the 3 major sports, people know who they are. So that's kind of my thing. I would prefer to, if you ask me, would you rather have Arizona or Arizona State in your conference right now? I would pick Arizona. And for Houston, I think that's one we pretty much disagree on. Outside of basketball, I don't think it was that great of an addition. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the city. It's the home of my Astros, but I couldn't put them there. We already have 3 Texas schools in the conference. I mean, I think anybody would say they'd rather have Tech, Baylor, or TCU probably in their conference over Houston. That's just my opinion. Now, people may not agree with that, but I don't look at them as a huge value add to the Big 12. To me, Houston and Cincinnati were kind of on the back end, especially with Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati to me only got here because they rounded out the conference. We had to have an even number. Cincinnati was the next best add, in my opinion, at that time. But could the conference have done without Houston and Cincinnati? Probably so. And I hate saying that about any of the conference members, but that's just kind of how I feel. I mean, I'm glad to have them both here, but I don't know if they were necessarily need ads looking back at it now after you have these new 4 schools coming in.
Yeah, I value basketball more, and that's understandable given our differences, but I think basketball might be undervalued nationally because of, we all know who funds everything. It's football. That's how it's always going to be. But I do think that the Big 12 they have an avenue in the future to maybe have just a separate basketball TV deal, a separate way to bring in revenue. Because Turner at TNT, they lost the NBA. And they've had the NBA for dang near 20 years. They're going to have plenty of empty TV time. They're going to have plenty of dollars to spend. It would not shock me in the slightest if the Big 12 was able to get those TV dollars. And if that happens, then the value of your basketball success, I think, changes a little bit. And I don't think it can be understated how respected Houston is by the rest of the country. And they're now the premier basketball brand in the conference. And I think for me that's enough to bump it up. And I'm high on Willie Fritz. I think Fritz is going to build Houston into not a contender in the Big 12, but I think he's going to build them into a respectable program in the coming years. And I guess we'll just have to see on that. But that was a fun exercise. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff like that in the offseason. ranking Big 12 stadiums, ranking Big 12 uniforms, throwback logos, quarterbacks, wide receivers, all that fun stuff. Just to get the gears turning up in the head. We'll wrap it up in just a second, but our next show is going to be our first ever in-person show. Can you believe that?
I can. I actually just thought about it right now. A week from right now, I'll be on a plane to Kansas City. The reason I'm flying to Kansas City, it's hard as hell getting from San Antonio to Des Moines. That's not the easiest path. But for whatever reason, there's always nonstop flights to Kansas City from San Antonio. Don't know why. It was easier. It was cheaper, shorter. So I did it to Kansas City instead. So I'll just drive up. I'm going to go there Wednesday night. We'll drive up to Des Moines on Thursday morning.
And then at some point, probably Thursday, we're going to have an in-person Bigger Than 12. Who knows? We might end up not talking any Big 12. We might just pour a glass of Steeple Ridge bourbon or 7.
I don't know about 7.
Not 7. I'm kidding.
Got a concert to go
because
to,
we got
so.
the Brooks and Dunn concert that night at the Iowa Event Center. Another proud sponsor of Iowa Everywhere. Do you have any like thing when you're up here that you have to do? Is there any spot, anything you got to eat?
Well, I think the first thing I got to do when I go up there is I got to stop to get a beer. I mean, that's by the time I'm going to be heading on. I'm in vacation mode. It's going to be around noon. I figured Confluence is probably one of the southernmost breweries, I think, in the city.
It probably is, honestly.
Yeah. Went there last year, loved it. Ton of great beer options there. So probably my plan is to maybe grab a bite to eat, stop at Confluence, have a beer, and then I don't know, we'll figure out our pod situation. As far like I already know the breweries that I want to go to because this is my third time going to be going to Des Moines. So like I already have my favorite set list of breweries that I know I want to hit. So I'm probably going to hit all those. Need to find this is kind of where it gets tough. I need to find me a good like tenderloin sandwich, pork tenderloin sandwich. Stopped at Smitty's and Smokey D's last year. I thought Smokey D's was better than Smitty's. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but that's how I felt. So if anybody out there has a recommendation on a good pork tenderloin sandwich in the Des Moines area, let me know. I'll try. Maybe I'll go there on Thursday for lunch. I don't know, or if not, I'll hit it up Friday. But
it's hard to have a bad tenderloin in Des Moines. Like it's all that Iowa pork. It's so good. My recommendation always though for a tenderloin, I think the smaller the town, the better.
Is it the one in Prairie City? There's one there.
Prairie City's got a great one.
Yes, it's like the ice cream shop or whatever it is.
Kippy's in Elkhart has a great tenderloin. Houston's on Main down in Milo has a great tenderloin. There, I know I think Van Meter's well known for a tenderloin. So that's my recommendation. Yeah, you can get a dang good tenderloin about anywhere in Des Moines, but there are so many hidden gems out at a place where you can go get a tenderloin and then a bottle of beer for $3. Not all together, but like you can drink some $3 beer, which I'm sure doesn't exist in very many places down there in Texas.
Back home. There's,
back in Shiner.
Yeah, there's a shout out. There's a convenience store there. I said a convenience store. They have draft beer.
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let's
not tell TABC about that. But they have draft beer. You can get a to-go cup for a large to-go cup there is like $3. It's 16 ounce. They say to-go cup because it comes in a plastic cup, and whatever you do with that cup is nobody business but yours. So yeah, that's a very popular place for a hangout there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I enjoy going down there when I can. The brewery's pretty cool, but I was like going to Howard's, but yeah. I gotta mention, I'm planning to go to What You Smoking in Luther
Oh yeah, that
The
place is so good.
Best barbecue in the state of Iowa. I went there last year on my way up to Ames, and it was as good as advertised. Really, really good stuff. So just as good as some of the stuff I can get down here. So I was really, really impressed with what they're doing over there. Pretty much literally in the middle of nowhere in Luther, but excellent barbecue out there.
Yeah, what you're smoking is legit. They've won best new food at the Iowa State Fair a couple different times. The Iowa Twinkie was so good. Yeah, you can't go wrong with anything on the menu in Luther. But we're looking forward to welcoming you back to the great state of Iowa. Hopefully you can put your Iowa trivia questions of the last 30 or 40 weeks to use in case you get stopped by a stranger on the street asking about it. It's gonna be a fun weekend. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's coming. We're a week away. I can't even believe it. It's finally here. I feel like I've been planning this trip I mean, I haven't really planned this trip. Usually, like, I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do. This one, we're kind of just free going it. We don't really have a set, like, oh, we're going to do this day, that day. Like, we have none of that. So I am open to whatever. I really don't care. I mean, I'm there. I'm on vacation, so I'm there to have a good time and relax.
Well, that's the way to go. That's how we do it here on Bigger Than 12. Thank you to all of the sponsors: Wealth Charter Retirement Planning and Tax, Freedom Tire, Circa Sports Iowa. Thanks for presenting Bigger Than 12 in the Channel Seed Studios. We'll be back next week in person. Derek Duke in Iowa here on Bigger Than 12. We'll look forward to it next week.